What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Clay City, Kentucky and the KXCR training facility. This is one of my favorite places to ride. So today we're going to talk about pros and cons of the KTM 350 XCf-w. KTM may be ready to race, but as far as these old bikes are concerned, ready to start is not necessarily one of their strong suits. I make the joke online, WP suspension is ready to leak. I've had brand new fork seals on my air forks for a while in the Husky, and those things are as scared of mud as the oil seals were on my CRF-250L. And one of the things that really just drives me up the damn wall is KTM 4-strokes. I've discovered that among dirt bikes, I am definitely a 2-stroke guy. My issue with this 350 and every other 4-stroke that KTM makes, sorry, every single cylinder 4-stroke that KTM makes, sounds like a freaking bag of wrenches. You get on the gas, and you probably can't hear it now over the exhaust, but I'm just listening to this thing just rattle. Clatter, 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 clatter. It's just noisy and annoying. Now, you could say, oh, get a louder exhaust. In my case, wear earplugs. Like, yep, all that's true. But it doesn't change the fact that something about the valve train is just annoying. No different than I'm addicted to the sound of the 2-stroke and the way the engine character works. Really, really love that. It's very endearing to me. I find KTM singles to be downright annoying. Their engine character bugs me. Now, on the flip side, you know, this 350's got like 37 horsepower. You know, the closest 4-stroke that I know the best being that CRF-250L had, you know, whopping 18. You know, it's kind of a joke, you know, by comparison. And as I've, you know, discussed ad nauseum, now the price of that horsepower is profound. High compression, it's a thing. Like, that 250L was a tractor. I made jokes. It was like my trials bike. Like I would crawl around anywhere with that thing. I thought if I could, you know, if I had to pick it up in a pinch that I could. So I love that. On the flip side, these race 4-strokes flame out like crazy because the compression's so high to get all that power, and that's great, but why? And I get it, you're racing, power takes priority. You're not gonna hear me question that, but you know, especially when it comes to trail bikes, that's what upsets me so much. Is, you know, I'm using this as, I mean, hell, today we're not racing today, I'm just out here riding race trails, just having a good time. So for a trail bike, I don't need that. But right now, nobody really makes that. You know, Kawasaki's KLX 300 is, you know, one of the few highly capable trail bikes that are out there that don't require the maintenance intervals. Like, this thing is, like I said the other day, like every 10 hours change the oil, every 20 hours check the valves. You're like, holy shit. I had the 250L for 3 years. Put 12,000, 10,000 miles on it. Never checked the valves. Like, what's the deal here? Anyway, so that's the cons, more or less, to having the 350 for sure. Like I said in the CRF-250L video, I bought the 350 because for the most part, I was still putting the bike on the back of the Jeep. And if I was carrying it everywhere anyway, then I might as well get a bike that's better on the trails and off-road.
but it had to be a dual sport. You know, it was something that I needed to be able to put a plate on. And like I said, since my buddy Bill has the exact same bike, I knew it was something I can do. I also knew that I've been beating up the two-stroke pretty bad, and there's been a couple times where I've been waiting on parts this year, and I figured if I'm going to be waiting on parts, then I might as well get another bike that I can also race from time to time. I mean, like I said before, the ultimate goal is so that I could actually potentially ride to a race. I don't think the 350 is necessarily that bike, even though it has the possibility. Like I said, there are pros and cons, and there's engine character things and some concerns I have about high hours, but it's still possible. And like I said, it's definitely possible with a 500.
Pros and cons to the 350 versus the 250L. And obviously this thing is 60, 70 pounds lighter than that Japanese dual sport. That thing's made out of steel. I don't know if this thing's steel or aluminum, but at any rate, obviously it's significantly lighter. Obviously it's got that extra suspension travel, and this thing's, you know, it's race capable. It's already done 2 races. I mean, that's almost, you know, if I race this one more time this season, it's obviously raced as much as the other one. The issue that I'm worried about is, you know, vibration, and I don't know if it's rim locks, but I never really balanced the wheels on the 250L. You know, this bike, I can't tell right now. You can barely hear my voice hitting all these roots and stuff. But when I'm on the pavement, you can hear, not hear it, you can feel that, you know, that front end just wobbling all over the place because it's unbalanced. And then, you know, and just in general, the bike vibrates more. I have no doubt that it's counterbalanced, but it's not nearly as comfortable. So like I said, even if it's capable of riding 2 hours, 100 miles from my house to the river, I'm anxious to see, am I going to be super uncomfortable? Now on the flip side, I'm a guy that likes Deals Gap. It's been a while since I've been down there. I now have a bike that I could spend $1,000 and get a set of Supermoto wheels, and it wouldn't be like the 250L where I'd be, you know, ringing it out, you know, everywhere but the Gap. You know, Cheerleader Skyway wouldn't be much fun. This bike, power like this on a Sumo, it would be stupid. It's giving it the beans. Still trying to adjust you know, 4-stroke throttle response. Obviously, I'm not used to this much power. And I am on the 2-stroke. It's a very different bike. 2-stroke is very happy being lugged along. I'm still getting used to engine braking, and that's what I was saying before. Like, you know, 4-stroke, the flame out issue is significant. And with that, engine braking it's like Harley engine braking. It's crazy. You let off that throttle and you just feel that bike start to slow down. Some people like that. And I always thought I did too, but I didn't realize how, you know, that low compression on the Honda engine braking doesn't do much. You start riding a 2-stroke, and suddenly engine braking isn't really necessary anymore. You kind of trust the brakes, and honestly, let gravity do the work. It saves energy. Makes, you know, like I said, it's just a matter of learning skills and trusting it.
I mean, for non-dirt bike people, you know, the 350 has got 37 horsepower. It weighs about 250 to 260 pounds. I haven't put it on the scale. It's an older one. It definitely feels heavier than my Husky. You know, it's got like 12 inches of suspension travel and like a foot of ground clearance. What I really like about the 350 is it has the PDS suspension. Folks that are super nerds about suspension are going to say that they like linkage better. In my case, I like the simplicity. It's one less thing that I have to work on. We can definitely have conversations about what's really better for what application. People with more talent, that makes a lot more sense. In my case, it's a means to an end, and it's a more utilitarian machine than just a race bike.
For folks that don't know, XC stands for cross country. My Husky is actually the equivalent of the XC. This bike is an XCf-w. W stands for wide ratio, which means that this has 6-speed transmission, just like my Husky does. What I really like is And these newer ones, it's a softer suspension on the W. While I think I would rather have softer suspension on my two-stroke for hard enduro type stuff, being a guy that wants to, you know, kind of adventure ride, it's kind of nice that, like right now, I can sit down and just enjoy this ride. It's a little softer than it would be on my XC, which is stiffer for higher speed racing. So when I bought the 350, it had a, I think it was 13 tooth on the front, 50 tooth on the back, and I actually bought it on a Saturday and then took it racing that Sunday, and it was a weird feeling. Like, you know, racing's new to me by comparison. I didn't grow up racing, so for me it was like odd to be in a situation where the first time where I was flat out in 6th gear at one point on that track. That has never happened to me before. Just have never been in a spot where I was twisting that throttle and wanting to know why there wasn't more. So I got a 14 tooth and put it on the front. And the biggest concern was, while I think that 1350 or whatever it is stock, I needed it to be fast enough that I could ride around the street, you know, at the gorge and other places, and not have to worry about, you know, keeping up or being high in the rev range and whatnot. So I'm really happy with that improvement I made to it. I still feel like there's a little bit of a disparity between first and second gear. A lot of times I'm riding in second and I'm chugging it a little bit, so first is a little high. So I could actually see adding a couple teeth to the back might be acceptable in this case. And like I said, this thing has so much power, for me, it's not that big a deal. The downfall of the 350 will probably be if I finally get back to a space where I want to ride to and from the gorge. I want to spend hours on the dual sport bike, and it's not the scrambler. That I'm worried that even if I balance the tires, if this thing will do 60 miles an hour, not a whole lot of effort, but if I want to do 65, 70, definitely 65 for an hour. I'm sure somebody that owns one will tell me that, you know, they've done it. Their EXC has done it. That could be. But in my case, I admit, I'm a little worried about doing it on an engine that's got, you know, 350 hours on it already. This may prove to be an issue. So like I said, I think longevity-wise, I may be shopping for a 500. That way, kind of load it up, camp off of it, and be a dumbass and go racing if that's what I decide to do. Let's see if we can get lost here. That shouldn't be too hard to do. So as far as off-road is concerned, I mean, we know that this thing is good on-road. I mean, lots of supermotos, people do that kind of stuff. Alright, let's hit this. Woo! Get there. Alright. Anyway, like I said, you know, people supermoto their 350 XC. That stuff's out there. But we know it's not an ideal travel bike. So there's that flame out. Off-road, as a guy who has discovered, at least for right now, I like riding the two-stroke off-road better. That flame out issue that I was just dealing with is really not a problem. But there's no doubt that, you know, the capabilities of a bike like this off-road are light years beyond, you know, 300-pound Japanese dual sports. I do think we need to, you know, narrow the gap a little bit. We've got you know, the KLX 300, the new CRF 300L, that kind of thing is starting to do it some, but it's still not the same. But at any rate, I like this bike because it has a lot of power, and I admit I've never ridden a 450 for more than a couple seconds helping a buddy getting out of a tight spot, but it's got a little more punch than the 250 does, and still feels super light in the woods. It's not as light as my two-stroke, obviously, both physically and the way that it feels, you know, dipping in between the trees. And I'll make the point, and I'm serious about this, if we're talking 2020, I like the 250 better than the 350 out of the box. You're looking at, I don't know, 12 grand or something. And if you're looking at that much money, it's crazy to me that this 2012, you know, that's not as affected by the EPA and Euro 5 the way new ones are, is a lot more fun to ride than the 2020 that's out there now, because it's so corked up. I got a friend that spent, I'm sure it was no less than $2,000 trying to get it, you know, all desmogged and whatnot. I gotta tell you, this right here, this is why I love this. I love it down here because of all these cliffs and whatnot. And when I'm out here on this ride, now I can enjoy riding a dirt bike, being on the trail, being in the woods. A day like today where I'm alone, but also just looking at this majestic view. Anyway, the new bikes are corked up, and for whatever reason, I'm sure displacement has a piece of that math that I don't know. But the 250 feels peppier. When you've ridden one like this one, and you ride a 20 or newer, you're just like, where's the extra 100 cc's of power? It doesn't feel the same. So like I said, I love the punch that this has. I'm like totally looking off the trail, not paying attention. Goodness, that is amazing. So that's a piece of advice. If you're out shopping and want a 350, if you're looking at buying new, ride the 250 and the 350 back to back, and really think about what you're prepared to spend. Are you going to buy a 12,000 motorcycle and spend $1,000 more? Or are you going to buy a 250 EXC and just enjoy the bike? Anyway, so, and that's it. You know, who is this bike for? Obviously, it, as my buddy Bill has proven, you know, it's a very capable adventure bike. But you're going to be happier off-road more than on, but no question that that's the case. So you have to be prepared for that on the front end. And then, like I said, it's a very capable race machine. In fact, I think Caleb Russell, I think KTM has a Caleb Russell branded bike, for lack of a better term, and that bike is a 350. That's right, I remember this log, because that's the hey, don't fall off the cliff moment right there. Man, this log road is gorgeous. Am I stupid enough to get up there? Probably not today, but we may have to think that over one day. So, anyway, I admit that I really like this bike. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of torque. I mean, Billy Bolt does enduro cross on this bike, so there's a lot to be said for capability on this machine. Obviously, like I said, I love this suspension. I said this bike, technically it's a Husky. Billy Bolt has a Husky 350, but the premise is the same engine. So I'm enjoying it for now. Look forward to seeing more people out on the trail. I think I finally got the suspension tuned in where I like it. It was terrible when I first got it, but that's what happens when, you know, it's not tuned from the factory. It was tuned to somebody else, and we're very different people as far as skills and weight. But I finally got it where I like it. Racing Peace Pipe Enduro this weekend, KXCR the weekend after that. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll catch you guys down the road.